everyone, and welcome to episode 73 of the Impulso Podcast by Momentum Works. So, on today's episode, we have a special guest, Connor, Head of Curriculum Development at Ji Tang, joining us. So, Ji Tang is actually an S-level MCN in China, managing over 170 influencers with a total of more than 200 million followers. And unlike most traditional MCNs, Ji Tang themselves do not sell physical products via live commerce, but rather they provide online courses to key opinion consumers, otherwise known as KOCs, teaching them how to do e-commerce on TikTok, including live commerce. So recently, Momentum Works brought 20 plus Southeast Asian delegates to China as part of our live commerce immersion, and Connor was actually one of the guest speakers that we invited to speak during the event. So many participants found his sharings very interesting, which is why we are very happy that Connor agreed to join us on the podcast today to share his experience of MCNs in China with the rest of us. So hi Connor, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm also honored to be invited to this conference online because last time when I was invited to participate in your event, I think that concept was a little bit complicated, that I didn't have enough time to introduce the whole concept, the whole business model from our company. So I'm also honored to having another opportunity to introduce my company or myself.
So maybe to start, maybe you want to introduce a little bit about Ji Tang and what you guys do, especially from the perspective of key opinion consumers.
Hello guys, I'm Connor. My Chinese name is Jianwei. You can call me Connor or Jianwei. Actually, I'm currently working in Ji Tang, this company, as a curriculum designer. As you just mentioned in the very beginning in this episode, Ji Tang actually is a combination of MCN and an education company. So I work in the curriculum design department. I'm the head of this department. For myself, actually, I was an English teacher and I was a Chinese teacher as well. Actually, this sounds like a little bit like a job interview already. I actually graduated from a foreign studies university, and my major was teaching Chinese as a second language. So when I was doing my internship, I actually worked in Hungary for 1 year to teach Chinese to some Europeans. And then I moved back to China. I participated in the online education industry. And I taught English to Chinese students, especially the secondary school students. For some common people or for other people, maybe I have changed my subject thoroughly. But for me, my major was teaching second language. Okay, so for me, I didn't change my subject. I was doing the education thing. And afterwards, maybe some of you know the double reduction policy in China. Yeah. And so afterwards, Luckily, I gained a lot of online education experience, and that's why I chose Ji Tang. Okay, I was still doing the online education thing afterwards. So I took advantage of my education experience, and then Ji Tang also needed some educators or some teachers to give or deliver the lessons they want to give. That's how to do e-commerce or live commerce. Because Ji Tang actually just turned to the phase 2. I call it phase 2 of e-commerce in China. Because actually there are 2 phases. The phase 1 would be the very traditional or the so-called MCN. They will use their big influencers. They will use their giant influencers to do the services, make short videos or do live commerce or just do other advertising movements for the brands. But actually, when we were at that time of maybe around 2022, many MCN companies were trying to find other ways to do more service to the brands. And one of the model or one of the ways that we found was to cultivate or to train KOCs instead of hiring or just talking to more giant KOLs to join the MCN. We started to train or educate KOCs to serve the brands. This is one of the most innovative ways for MCNs to make the growth, I think.
So when you talk about in 2022, when people started trying different ways to grow, to trying different models, what was the reason for that? Is that because the first wave became too competitive, or?
Yeah. Actually, I think there is not a very clear time that when MCNs started to grow so fast. I think it was around 2018 or 2019. Many MCN companies set up and they did not encounter with many competence. It was not very competitive in the market back then. So I can say that the numbers of MCN companies was far less than the number of brands. So the brands were, yes. So it was not very big a challenge for the MCNs to find the clients or find the brands. But after 2020 or 2021, there were too many MCN companies already. And people already know that maybe even the common people know how the MCN works. So it was a little bit like the rat race started.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that was interesting because from 2018 to 2020, that's like 3 years, 3 or 4 years. Then from something which is, just emerging, you have a lot of opportunities, you have lots of clients, to it became a deep red ocean with lots of competitors. In your opinion, how did it happen so fast?
Well, maybe we have to determine the term. Maybe we have to define maybe in China's online business, 1 year or 2 year is not a very long time.
Okay, yeah.
So, from my perspective, it was not a very long time. So it changes so fast. Consider the characteristics of this industry. 3 years is already enough for companies to thrive and die for three times maybe.
Yeah, so of course, so from 2018 to 2021, it became so competitive, and people started looking for different ways of further growth, right? I mean, you guys have identified KOC. How did that process work like, right? I mean, how did you discover that, okay, this is the way to go? Did you try many things?
Before that, I think maybe to set some context for our listeners, right? Maybe we can explain what KOCs is. So KOC is key opinion consumers. And I think this is a term that's used. Is it used prevalently in China? Because outside of China, I think it's not as well known yet. We know key opinion leaders, but the term key opinion consumers.
I think KOCs, I hear lots of brands talk about it, but I don't see many brands actually practice it, right? I mean, they say that, okay, we should turn customers into our advocates. But quite often I see that in strategic planning. So like planning marketing. So we need to turn customers into our brand advocates, but I don't see many things being actually done. So it is there, but I don't see much action.
Actually, back in China, it's the same. Not a lot of companies have found this model. I think we are one of the first. Maybe we are the first to really actually use this model. Well, if I tell the truth, I don't know other companies that use this model. Maybe they are still in the very first phase. They are trying to take the most use of the big influencers. They are trying to find better ways to make better contents for the brands. They are testing how to get more traffic on every single short videos taken by the big influencers or every live studio. What words would be better for selling this product, or what images that they would give to the customers when they are selling a certain product. So they are starting the rat race literally in that two genre, maybe. But in another way, my company has already found another way to work on, which is the KOC model.
And can you talk a little bit more about the KOCs then? I mean, who are these people and why would they have the incentive to actually do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. For those of you who don't know the definition of KOC, I just want to make it clearer. Let's define what KOC is. Actually, it's an acronym for key opinion customers, right? And we all know the KOL. Maybe KOL is the key opinion leaders. Well, the very difference is the last word, customer versus leader, right? But customers, like, they are more opinioned. This is the group of influencers who maybe have, they have less followers, but deeper influence, I think. Because maybe in the phase one, I always mention this concept. In the phase one, people try to believe, or they tend to listen to the big influencers, what they say, what they wear, what they are talking about, and they can have the trust when they are posting their short videos or do the live commerce, right? But after several years, maybe people are tired. Maybe just consider the industry of maybe the stars or the influencers in the traditional way, like the movie stars, like the other entertainment stars. We start to realize that their words or their images are driven by some brands. This is clear, maybe. But if we are talking about your friends, maybe your parents, maybe your sisters, they are trying to post some content. And in their content, they are selling something, or they are just giving their own comment or their own feeling about one product or one service, and it's more trustworthy. And that's also some basic business logic for maybe Xiaohongshu app, because maybe the KOCs, they have less followers. I wouldn't say they have more influence, but they have deeper influence because they tend to influence different people. The big stars or the big influencers, they influence a very vague word, but a whole group of people, a huge group of people. But the KOCs, they tend to influence their friends, and they have very vertical niche followers once they started their account. Maybe one KOC, its account started from, she was introducing maybe a kind of book or a kind of drink, and maybe they have less followers after several years when she started this whole account, but all the followers, all the fans she accumulated after all the work, they are very loyal, they have more trust in that KOs. So China's e-commerce has entered phase two, or let's say maybe phase one and phase two, they coexist right now. But the advantages of KOCs are that, just like I mentioned, they are your friends. They are some normal people like you and me. So when they are talking about something, when they are trying to give you the image, trying to give you some information about a kind of service or a certain product, is generally more trustworthy. Maybe that's the change of people's mind, but it's predictable.
And how does that differ from what people have been talking about, like social commerce? Like somebody's selling something on WeChat, or as you mentioned, Xiaohongshu. And you mentioned that there's quite a bit of trust. In terms of that trust, is that similar kind of trust when you see I share certain things about certain brand on my WeChat? Is that similar? It's just now it's produced in video.
It's indeed similar. It does not differ too much, because when we're considering about WeChat or other social media app that we use, when you are turning on, where you are opening this social media app, you know that you are trying to contact with your friends, some people you trust, some people you already know. And yes, but when you are opening the TikTok, that maybe maybe naturally you are trying to look for some entertainment, or you will have this prediction that you will encounter with some big giants that trying to propaganda something. But once you see a normal people trying to talk about something, naturally you will have more trust in them. I would just give you a fresh case that I encountered with today. I was trying to pick up my English these days, and I just want to do one more time for the IELTS test. So I searched IELTS test, some related information on TikTok, on Douyin in China. And then after I scrolling up for some videos, and I suddenly see an overseas student posted a content that she's saying that, congratulations to myself, I have passed the IELTS test and I'm going to England. I'm going to UCL for my international study life. But I worked very hard for the whole preparation for the IELTS. And my learning materials, my whole thing was a waste. It will be a waste. So I'm going to give my stuff to those who are preparing the IELTS right now for free. So that is a real case. I think that I'm having a conversation. I'm going to talk to a real person. He's not a model. He's not a big star that I cannot talk to him. He is a real person that I really edit him, and I just trying to, can you give me the material? So naturally, I think people wouldn't give it a second thought. We would just have a natural connection with the normal people like you and me, and naturally we'll have more trust in KOCs. Nevertheless, I have this prediction that maybe in some step, or maybe in the next 3 steps, and she will suddenly jump out to say that you need to pay some for more expensive materials, and then I will stop. But anyway, I was invited to his or her, or I give him a chance to listen to him, or give him a chance to listen to his introduction to maybe his product. Hide behind from the very first content that I encountered with. So this is a good model to establish trust in the very first place.
And when you look at these people, so these are the real customers who talk about their experience, right? And they don't promote products full time, right? They just do it as part of their free time or as additional income.
Yes, they do it as their part-time job. And if we look at their accounts, they do not just post content that related to the products or the service they are selling. They are also posting something that are related to their own life. So in our lessons, we also teach the KOCs not to just post the product related things. We also need to post something about yourself. You just do it like it's your WeChat, it's your Facebook, it's your Instagram, so that people consider you as a real person, not just a machine or just some other sellers.
So if a KOC, and because of whatever that person posts suddenly gets lots of attraction, does that person turn into a KOL, or would the person remain a KOC?
We wouldn't recommend that, but if you can become a KOL, but we really wish that you can be a bigger and bigger successful KOL. But from our experience, few people can do that. And I think the whole industry or the whole market has already tested or proven this. Just a few people can become KOL. But it doesn't mean that everybody has to become KOL. I think people have this wrong concept about the more followers you have, the much influence you have. No, there is not a positive correlation with those two things.
And how does Ji Tang work with the KOCs and how to basically manage their accounts and stuff? And brands will work with you to reach out to these KOCs, or brands will reach out to KOCs? Because KOCs are small, right? The brands probably don't have the ability to reach out to each of them.
Yes, actually back in 2022, there was no brands that know how the KOC model works. So we were also trying to convince or to find some brands or companies who can see and understand the value of KOCs. So we also talked them into this. And then we want to make our lessons more competitive. So what is a competitive lesson for us? First of all, we have this basic understanding, or we have the basic skills about how to do the short videos, how to do the live shows or the live commerce, right? We have this group of knowledge that we can make sure that this is the most scientific one, or this is the most useful knowledge for our students. But this is not enough for a lesson to be competitive. We also need to find some brands for our KOCs, just like we need to find some brands for the KOL, right? But we have more KOCs. So let's consider why KOCs should choose your lesson instead of choosing others. Because your lessons is more competitive because you have the brands. If I don't sign up for your lessons, we don't have the authorization, or I can't sell the product for some brands. For example, we have very famous short reels company. Yes, they do the short episodes or the short reels on TikTok for themselves. They do the advertising. But they also can get another way of getting the traffic for example, the KOCs. So we found this chance, we talked to them, we introduced the value of KOCs to them, and then they chose to give us the exclusive authorization of their short reels. If normal people or the KOCs become the students of our lesson, and then they will get the exclusive authorization to introduce or to sell the virtual product from that short video company.
So basically, in a way that when they choose the courses from you, in addition to just learning, they actually have the real brands that they can actually work on to
Yes.
gain experience.
Yes. So we all know that there are some brands that are really hot, really famous, so that their brands are easier to be sold.
So was it hard to convince brands to work with the KOCs? Because I mean, they can say that KOCs are great, but how do I make sure that they don't give a negative image to my brand, etc.?
Well, it depends. It really depends because some companies, maybe the time that we talk to them, they're busy on something else and they don't have much energy to understand this whole complicated KOC model.
Okay. Yeah.
And we spend
Yeah.
much time to talk to them, to introduce this model that we will convince them like, you don't have to spend much time on doing any other thing because we will do the education and we will do the connection thing. We will introduce this model or introduce your brand to our KOCs. What you need to do is just to give us the exclusive authorization. And there's no hurt for you. It doesn't bite. You can just have a try. And you give this to us. And what will you have? You will have a bunch of KOCs in the future. They will post videos. They will just speak for you on this whole TikTok or on other platforms even. Maybe you don't even have to pay for $1. So they will think about it, and I don't think there is any challenge for them. So we just basically introduce the whole model and let them understand. Once they understand this model, they are interested. So that's why we can always find famous brands to work with us on this KOC model. Well, that's for the hardest cases. For some easier cases, once we contact them, they have already known our reputation in this industry. They have already known the KOC model, and they are also friends with some brands that we cooperated with in the history. So they know, oh, can we cooperate together? I also want to have a trial. Because they didn't give much time or money. They don't have to put even not a single person into this industry, into this new business, I think. And then they get the result freely. So why don't we?
So we say that they get the results free. I mean, how would the ROI be measured then? I mean, if you don't invest much, but you see the results, how would you measure the results and how would you measure the ROI?
How do we measure
brands?
the ROI? Well, maybe I can explain this in Chinese, and I hope.
Okay, sure. So we were actually in Shenzhen and Guangzhou for 3 days of live immersion. I was translating for almost everyone, aside from Connor. Connor was like the only person who could speak English, and I could sit down and have a coffee because translation requires lots of context. Yeah. The question was how would the brands measure ROI? Because this is a new model, right? And especially they don't have to invest much. Connor said that to understand this, there's quite a bit of context. Because first, lots of brands are making investments and advertising investment onto Douyin or TikTok. And quite often, it's because it's so competitive, you see negative ROI. And the thing is that they're also trying to find different ways to make their overall ROI make sense. So when Ji Tang has the opportunity to explain to these brands about exactly what the KOC model is, they're willing to have a try because first it's zero investment and any return out of this would be a positive return, and they are willing to give a try. So obviously the next related issue is that why would the KOCs do that, right? Because from the KOC's point of view is now Douyin and live commerce are widely recognized in China. And many people try to participate in that, but how do they participate in it? if they're not a KOL, how do I participate in it, right? But they want to express themselves. They want to maybe earn some side income. So here they come to Ji Tang, they learn the skills, and they also have the ability to sell for some of the bigger brands. And then they can showcase to people that are saying that, hey, I'm not just a random guy like trying to broadcast myself and nobody wants to listen or watch. And I actually have experience actually selling for good brands. And then it basically lowers the barrier for both sides, right? I mean, for brands, it's easier to try a different model. And for the KOCs, I mean, it gives them opportunity to actually practice with real brands and actually help them actually participate in live commerce. Is my translation okay?
Yes, an expert is an expert. Thank you for your translation.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a question. So when you say that for the brands to use this KOC model, there's no investment on their end, right? So for these KOCs, when they start selling these products, do the brands give them the products for free? Or are these products that they have already purchased by themselves?
Well, that's the part that we do. Ji Tang will take this part of job because we will take the photos, we will take many footage or scenes of the products. If they are selling some certain products, we will talk to the brands. Can you give me some samples? We will just use some samples and we will pay the fee for the samples and we will use some AI tools to generate more materials for our KOCs to edit, to use the products for their account.
Then you will give the samples and the marketing materials to the KOCs, which they can use in their
video.
So
we will build a database for the materials of the products or the virtual products that we will be selling.
It's not a big investment.
It's not a big investment.
So obviously, as you said, that things move very fast. Do you see the model that you have with KOC become very competitive as well? Many other companies doing the same thing?
Yes, it's becoming more and more competitive. But to this question, we are not anxious. We're not afraid because we were the first one to maybe invent this KOC model. And we know the very core of this business model. It's about the brands. It's about working with valuable, qualified, market-tested brands. And another thing that makes this company or this model from our company more competitive is the education. Because we will give the best education we can, or one of the best education in this industry, in this market. So we will always make our lessons more competitive. And we have a nickname in this industry is the phenomenal lesson maker.
Got it. Very interesting. Related issue, since you speak English very well and you can see what's happening outside China, and now live commerce is also growing quite fast in many places in Southeast Asia, now in the US, and we see, I mean, last week I was talking to some friends in Brazil, and many of them actually trying different kinds of live commerce there as well. So you do see that this is becoming a trend elsewhere. And in your opinion, so for somebody who is coming from outside China, when they try to understand exactly how live commerce has evolved, for them to take practical lessons to understand how they should do it, do you have any advice? Because I see that, okay, people look at China, oh, amazing. But when I come back, look at my market. So not everything that they have, I can do it immediately because the market is not there. But I don't know when the market will be there. It might be very fast. It might be very slow.
Yeah. So what advice would I give them, right?
Yeah.
First of all, please keep subscribing and keep listening to this channel because we're sharing some of the most valuable information from China, and maybe this is the most advanced e-commerce, live commerce market in the world. So be a listener, stick to our channel. This is the first advice. And the second advice that maybe you guys are using TikTok, and please download Douyin, which is the mainline version. And you can know some information. Please just trust the algorithm back there. Please trust the algorithm of Douyin because it always gives you what you want. If you have done some searching, if you have watched something, you give some interaction to the content, it will constantly give you more information that you are interested in. So just trust that. Advice number 3, please try to, after knowing all the information that you got from Douyin, try to look for maybe the immersion or the offline events held by companies or platforms like Momentum Works. You are the very first this type of company I know, and I think you guys are one of the best.
Thank you.
And maybe advice number 4. If you have known the industry that you want to work on, and then you have known somebody from the offline events that you participate in, just have a try. Because like we mentioned in the earlier part of our episode, in China, especially in the online industry, online business, e-commerce industry, 1 year or 1 month is relatively a short time, because every company in China, they are trying to do new business in a minimum valuable product way. We won't do much investment in the very first day. We will talk about this, and then we build this prototype or this mold and give it a try in a very short time. And we will test the KOC or the return from it. So you don't have to be anxious or afraid if you have an idea and you have someone you want to work with, and you maybe have done some searching on Douyin. You think somebody has already started and are doing it, and you have a very good feeling about it. Just have a try, because maybe when you are thinking about it for 1 month, this chance has gone.
True. So actually, it's a very good set of advice, right? I mean, first, get insights. Second, I mean, get a chance to talk to stakeholders, like download Douyin so that you can see what other people have been doing. And fourth is that you have an idea, just try it out, because only when you start trying, then you can start iterating, and you get a real feel of how it is like or whether the model will work.
Yes. True.
Thank you, Connor, for doing some marketing for us. So, like he said, one way to learn a lot more or really get to see what's happening in China is to actually go to China and see for yourself. And it just so happens that Momentum Works will be doing another live commerce immersion, this time around in May. So we'll actually be going to Hangzhou for 3 days. And like Connor mentioned, we'll bring you to meet a few companies who are key players in the ecosystem in live commerce in China. So you'll really get to learn a lot and see what's actually happening on the ground, as well as hear from expert speakers like Connor, who know a lot about these industries and who can share their insights and experience on how to actually run and operate these businesses.
Yes.
So I will put a link in the show notes down below. You guys can check it out if you're interested. So thank you, Connor, for joining today's podcast. And for our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Impulso Podcast. We hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, do like our podcast and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred podcast platform to stay up to date on the latest happenings and trends in tech, new retail, and the broader digital economy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chances
Okay, wait.